it's interesting kind of how we have a sales community. It's a community of, CROs and others, CEOs and tech sales folks. But it'd be interesting for you to think about, having a community of kind of that segment of people. So just kind of somewhere where they can come together, they can ask questions, answer questions, have different levels of engagement, and then kind of supported by Field Pulse. That could be an interesting thing.
Definitely.
So there's food for thought. So how do you get leads? How do you sell?
Yeah. So interestingly, probably 95% of our business actually comes inbound right now.
Are you serious? So your reps, so your sales team is just following up on people that are interested?
Yeah,
it's a pretty warm leads.
Yeah, we joke to them that they're a little bit spoiled. So we're actually shifting it a bit. So we have an SDR team now, and we've had it, but we've expanded it and changed how they operate and grown it. But the difference for us in the last several months, especially on the AE side, is the expectation around doing outbound themselves, so that they're not just taking everything inbound, but they're meeting at least part of their quota outbound. And so that's a huge shift in narrative for us, where we're pushing on. And we tell them, hey, look, we've in the last few months doubled the number of AEs we've had, and we're growing leads, and we're growing our number of leads we're getting month over month. But if it's not going to keep up with the amount of AE hiring we're doing, and we make sure to keep a very delicate balance. So we're not putting anything out of control to the point where people can't hit quota, because internally for us, it's very important that every AE can definitely hit quota with what they're provided. And we have people that are completely blowing out quota as well. But we're monitoring a very close balance of how many inbound you get and how many you need to get to quota, and starting with, okay, right now we're saying you need to fill 5% of your quota approximately. That's how we're doing the math when we break it down outbound, which is still very little, but and then that's going to grow. That's going to become 10%, and then that's going to become 15, and that's going to become 20. But a lot of people I talk to, they think, wow, that's nuts. I have to do 50% of mine outbound. But for us, not only do we get a very healthy inbound dosage, but we have to get there. We don't want to all of a sudden flip the switch and say everyone has to cover 50% outbound, because then we're going to set up our team for failure, and we don't want to do that. It's very important for us that our sales team makes money, because at the end of the day, we want people who blow it out. We want them to make a lot of money, and that ultimately makes recruiting a lot easier if we can point to, hey, look, average AE is making this, top AE is doing this amount are hitting quota. Because I think that's one of the big issues in sales hiring in general, is that people post OT of 300K, but no one's hitting it, right?
I would say, what's the degree of difficulty? And I've got a recruiting business, top talent recruiting. So the OT, this company's higher. I'm like, okay, but if it's if achievable and beatable at this company, and it's a lower OTE, and you can overachieve, do the math, you're gonna make a lot more money. But it's like people that say, geez, I'm getting whatever 10,000 stock options at this place, and another place I'm getting 100 shares. They think the 10,000 is more. Well, you got to peel back the onion.
You don't even know the price.
What does it really mean? Yeah, just crazy. So with the so I grew up in the world where kind of making money, W-2. I've got friends, we do W-2s at the quarterly meetings and kind of things like that. But kind of culturally, kind of this day and age, it's not just about the money. It's kind of what are you doing kind of culturally, kind of with the company, with the environment as well, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a big part for us. We're pretty much in office every day. I definitely am. I encourage everyone to do. It goes a little bit down to the individual manager of their department and their team. But most people are in every day. And that's not for everyone, right? And if that's not for you, then this isn't the right place for you either. And some people are 100% remote focused only. And so they look at us and probably like, oh, that's ridiculous, but that's fine. That doesn't have to be for you. But I think my perspective is you spend a lot of your time working in your life. You should enjoy what you do. You should enjoy your environment, who you're with.
Yeah.
I obviously had to spend a lot of time at home during COVID working. And I needed more exposure to people and the team and your
Right.
friends that you make there. And the other part I've realized just is as you get older, you often start seeing your friends a little less and less. Maybe not you guys in Gray Oaks where you guys go play tennis and pickleball and golf with each other at at that, but at my age, you start seeing them less and less, and your friends end up being in your office, right? Who you see every day, and it's an important part of your life and what you make it. And I think that's important to me and what we do at Field Pulse. But again, that's not for everyone. But I think a lot of the people at the company, that is the case, and they like being with their friends and team members. And I think some people have a little bit of a FOMO when they're not in because others are in. Right. And it creates a good dynamic, and it makes the job to the company less transactional, for better or worse.
That's great. Yeah. So you're kind of setting the table, which I'd be in violent agreement with, which is kind of counterintuitive to some of the goofy culture things these days, which is, okay, we want you in the office. We want you to be working. We want you to interact, and we're going to pay you well. And that should motivate you. If that doesn't motivate you, this is not the place for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there are companies that are now fully remote. And that's
just
great for
think
some
about
people,
the mental health issue, right? Well, I mean, a whole bunch of different things, but they're not training, they're not learning, they don't have the friends, mental health, the blah, 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 like all this is just crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. At least for me. And it really depends on the person, but I know a lot of people, they don't even realize it, but I think they would be a lot happier being in the right environment every day than alone at home every day.
Totally.
But
I mean, you get lazy and lethargic, and it's unbelievable. So then, speaking of which, do you have AE openings now? Are you hiring?
Yes, we are. And the way we look at it, so not only are we specifically hiring for the AE role, but especially in the sales team, and we've talked about this internally, we said, hey, especially with the current environment and there being a lot of layoffs, if we can find superstar talent, we will make room for them, right? And that worked for us actually well during COVID. So we're fortunate to be in an industry that's not hit as hard economically, because HVAC, plumbing, electrical companies are still, they're still doing. When it's in Texas, it's 105 degrees out and your AC goes out, you'll find a way to get it fixed, right? So they are essential, like during COVID. And so we're continuing to grow faster and sell more and more every month. And we're very fortunate to be in that position because I know some markets have kind of shut off buying, which obviously makes it very difficult. But for us, even looking back to COVID, it's the layoffs we view, as unfortunate they are, as a great opportunity to find a lot of great talent that is on the market now. And so we're saying, hey, we need to be looking. If we find, even if we're not saying, hey, we have a slot right now, we want to make space for a superstar because we know we'll eventually need it. And if we can find them earlier, that's even better.
Awesome. So when you're going after somebody that has been impacted by layoffs, how do you kind of peel back the onion to figure out, were they laid off because of performance and they're kind of, hiding that fact, or they're legit laid off?
That's a good question. And I think that's one of the very interesting dynamics that we've talked about. Hiring is very difficult. People will say what they want to say.
Right.
And what spins in the most positive light for them. And you have to dig in a little. We've had some people actually give us just straight up proof. We've had some people literally take screenshots of like their performance, and show us like, look, this is how I performed. Otherwise, you're kind of taking their word at it, and you need to dig in a little deeper or look at maybe the company. But yeah, I would imagine some people probably hide behind, if they were let go, they're hiding behind kind of the layoff aspect, which is a little different. But I think that comes down to hiring in general. I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means on hiring yet, but we're continuously looking, how do we improve our success rate? What are the things we need to really dig in to prove that's right? Another big thing for me personally in hiring, I love referrals from people I know that have worked with them before. Yeah. That is my number one. So in fact, the last 3 AEs we brought on, all were referrals from someone that works at Field Pulse and had worked with them previously, or someone I trust very much so in that. And that goes a long way for me. And sure, it's not perfect either, but they're putting their reputation on the line, which is nice. And so what we do, we incentivize that too internally. So if, and I don't think it misaligns incentives where people are just trying to get referrals, but we pay, I think $2,500 for a referral that we hire. And so there's something in it for them too. But at the end of the day, people, we have found that when they refer someone, they really mean it because they also are staking their reputation behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say never hire anybody unless you do a reference check with either somebody that knows them first, whether you know them firsthand or, through a friend of a friend. Yeah. You can figure out. Absolutely.
Well, so how do you find reference checks? Because we do those, but obviously those can be massaged as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would so for our recruiting business, and it's, I've got maybe a more extensive network, but you figure out to say, okay, one way is, kind of, LinkedIn. So if it's us, I'd go and look at, and we're trying to hire you or place you somewhere. I would say, okay, look, here's who we're connected to. But then of those, here's the people that I know. Who do you know? And especially in the sales world, usually that's, you can always find somebody. I don't know if I've ever had a situation where we've, not been able to find somebody. And you just got to kind of dig that much because the cost of a bad hire is exorbitant. So, and Phil, thanks for asking the question. And for those, I should have said before, for those watching, feel free to comment and ask any other questions as well. So Phil says, what's the size of company that's in your sweet spot based on monthly billing? What's the range of monthly billing for your customers? And what's the average cost savings that your customers are realizing?
So what we're billing them or what they make in revenue?
Probably what your ideal customer profile company is.
Yeah, for us, it's really service contractors between kind of 5 and 30 employees. And we get larger ones too. They're just less of them in the market. And there's a lot of 1 and 2 man shops too. And we take them on, but admittedly, sometimes they get lazy about implementing and using it because they're a single man shop. So for us, our best customers are targeted.
Single person shop. You said single man, single person.
Yeah. Single person shop. In this industry, it is very skewed one way, but single person shop. And versus a larger shop, they end up kind of being better fit customers for us if they're more than 5 people.
That's great. And I don't know if she still has it, but Phil's wife, Dana, had a cupcake business. So Phil, maybe Phil's asking for that reason. Great cupcakes for sure.
Yeah. And then I guess billing and pricing. So we charge per user per month. Starts at $100 for a first user. Additional users are $60. So it's pretty much straight dependent on the number of users. We have some add-on modules, but that's kind of where we end up price point wise.
How many customers do you have, if you can say?
A couple thousand.
It's awesome. So great. All right. So our title topic is sales comp from a CEO's perspective. So you've already talked about your passion for making sure that the sales team can make money. One thing I was thinking about is, as you're bringing on, you want to kind of focus, you've got, tremendous lead gen engine. Have you thought about having any reps that are just pure kind of, I'll say net new, not doing anything off of the inbound?
Yeah. So we do have an SDR team, and they obviously, it works. It brings in business. I think the biggest thing for us, is that we've actually shifted our target segment and our price point a lot not only in the last year, but the last several years. And I think this is important to understand for anyone also thinking of starting a business, especially if you need to be sales driven. You have to be at a deal size that makes it doable in sales. So if you looked at our deal size a few years ago, and especially when I started, it just wasn't doable to have an outbound motion. It really wasn't doable for an AE to be hitting 50K, 70K ARR a month like it is now. And it's an interesting dynamic, something I had to learn, although I was beaten in my head by that by my father, Alex, too. About that, not physically, but about how the price point needs to be higher. But ultimately, if you do the math of what you can bring in, it has to be at a certain price point where you can bring in enough deals to get a big enough return to be able to do outbound. But we weren't always there. When I started this is 8 years ago, we came in at $20 a month for the first user. Additional users were 20 or 10, depending on the role. And that's just not a price point you can really be doing an outbound sales motion, right? The deal sizes are just too small. There, everything has to be inbound. But the good part about that is that over the years, we've focused so much on inbound marketing that to date, it's still coming in that way. A lot of it's just word of mouth, people finding us online, whatever. But now that we're in the territory where we're doing deals that are themselves 10, 15, 20, 50K deals, working some that are over 100, 200K, it's very doable outbound, obviously. But it's taken a shift in not only our price point, our approach, our model that we've really done in the last 2 years to get into that price point. But I think a lot of people fall into that trap if they're maybe starting a business that they want to do outbound sales, but you have to do the numbers to see how much can you realistically bring in and can you get enough ARR to justify it.
That's great. And Tom Adams asks, does the software also support proposal and quote management?
Yes, so that's actually a big part of it. So creating proposals, quotes, estimates, and then a layer on top of that are also sales tools, which is kind of interesting. So a little different than probably the sales you're used to, but a lot of the sales in our customer's game is on the spot in front of the customer closing. And that could be everything from, hey, I came out to do a diagnostic on your AC system and you need this replaced and it costs this much. Or the alternative would be selling an entire system that costs 10 grand, but can be financed X amount, and how you present it to the customer, how you propose it. But it's interesting sales, and obviously different than mostly what you and I are probably used to. But there's a huge difference in the sales quality among people who can do it well in this industry versus not. Because I've heard people talking about superstar HVAC salespeople who bring in $1 million in business a year, and versus kind of maybe the average guy who's bringing in a fraction of that.